One more minute. It's 8:02, and then we'll get started. I did add a couple of things to the agenda. It should be, we might have had an old agenda in the Teams invite, but I added a couple of the things to the agenda. So let me just pull up the agenda. So added to the agenda, we're trying to get any information on Pride Bonspiels, and Lauren and Rich from our from Member Services is going to, I think, dispense with primarily a warning about cybersecurity for clubs. I'm clearly not the cybersecurity expert, so we'll leave that to her. But if you don't have the agenda in front of you, there's 11 items. And I think really the most important thing maybe to cover, well, not most importantly, selfishly for USA Curling, is to cover the voting process at Members Assembly. And Dick Dawson's going to help with explain that. But just before we get to that, I was going to just start and ask if there any questions or additional input from our last meeting. Anything and again, everybody's should always feel welcome to. I know we don't have the team as robust as the channel, as robust as we would like, but we will get that sorted out. But in the interim, if you have questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to email me or anyone, or Lauren or anybody else on staff. So if there aren't any questions or additional input, I'll hold for just a second. We won't do Robert's rules. I won't go through that, but because we don't really follow them in this group. But with that, I'll turn it over to Dick Dawson, who's the USA Curling Secretary out of Broomstones. And I'll just preface it by saying that the reason we want to discuss it is it's a new process this year, right? So where we have member clubs carrying votes and individual members able to separate their vote if they're so inclined. And there has been communications go out to club leadership and some other communications, but I'll let Dick, as a platform we're going to use that will eliminate sort of, otherwise it would be a long meeting with a roll call vote. So Dick, I'll throw it over to you at this point.
Awesome. Thanks, Dean. And hello, everyone. I have not met most of you. My name is Dick Dawson. I am the Secretary of USA Curling, took the job about a year ago. Secretary@usacurling.org is my email address, and I am here to answer questions and to help you understand the process in anything that really has to do with members meeting. Lauren Rich is the members coordinator, if you will. She is one of your primary points of contact. I'm the one who kind of manages the voting process as well as the administrative issues or administrative challenges we have, if you will, in the members assembly or members meeting. So as Dean was alluding to earlier, we do have a new voting process this year. It was voted on at last year's members meeting, where the member clubs are going to be voting on behalf of their members. That's a general statement there, but the people who are members of USA Curling, who are members of your club and indicate that is their primary club, that's the number of votes you will have as a club to cast at the members meeting. So and then individuals from your clubs have the option to opt out of being represented by their member club. Some have already contacted me about that. So there's a group of people that does that every year. If they do opt out, obviously you lose that vote or as the representation, and that person can cast their own vote at the members meeting. So are there any questions on kind of that structure?
How do we, Dick, Jim McMahon from Frogtown,
Hi, Jim.
How do we find out how many members of USA Curling we have, since we don't do it by a full club payment and its individual member option.
Yeah, for sure. So what we're doing is we basically spend, and I'm going to share the timeline in a second. So there's going to be an eye chart that's going to be shared, but I'll walk through it in a second. But I believe it's 30 days out from, or no, 15 days out from the meeting itself, USA Curling will have tabulated the number of people who are eligible to vote, or however many individual members you have as part of your member club, then, and therefore the number of votes that you carry at the meeting. So that number is being fixed now as we're looking at every club and every member within the clubs and tallying those numbers. So if there are any questions, Lauren Rich does that, and then that gets certified by the treasurer of USA Curling, who will basically present that number to me and say this is what the voting rolls could be, assuming that the member clubs and the individuals declare that they plan on voting and they plan on participating. I'll talk about that in a second. Does that answer your question, Jim?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, and it is slightly different. So again, if there are questions, please don't hesitate to ask. But so basically, the timeline is such, and it's all laid out in the bylaws as what it is. So I'm going to share a chart with you that should be also online, but we'll just talk through it very quickly. I don't want to bore you with the detail, but this is a really good time to bore with detail if we need to. And let me do this and do this window and the countdown timeline.
Well, while Dick's pulling this up, I'll just say quickly that what we're hoping got you there too, Dick, instead of.
Yeah, sorry, taking that out for a second. Oh, that's even better. Sorry about that.
What we're really hoping that this group can do is, your club leaders have received an email about this from Lauren and a lot of information, but if you can just confirm with them that they know the process and have a plan, would be ideal. That would be our request of this group. So if you can do that as a club rep, that would be great.
Yeah, and just to kind of, as you're looking at the chart here above me, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so people can see it. But basically where we are now is that we're waiting for member clubs to declare that they intend on voting at the meeting. And that is a form that is available on usacurling.org on the website. It's also been linked to. Lauren has sent emails out to all of the club presidents, or the list that she has of people who should be voting, if you will, at this, or should be responsible for voting on behalf of their member club. So that's the list that she's working on. I know that she's gotten a number of clubs already who have responded to say they will be participating. And at that point, that helps me to build the log of who I need to be reaching out to. So this is the first section here. So the member clubs need to notify by the 10th of July, which is 30 days out from the meeting, of your intention to attend. That way we can compile the list, and at that point, that's when the number of clubs and the people who will be casting votes will be determined from the club side.
And that's just want to quickly, so there's no confusion. That's attend online or in person. So correct. Either counts.
Yeah. And we do ask, and that's something you can change. It's just a matter of whether we put chairs out for you or how we're going to invite you to participate in the voting process. So that's something that's important, but we need to make sure that's there. Jim, do you have a question?
Yes. What wasn't clear in the communication out is how member clubs that don't attend will be voting.
Yeah,
there wasn't a process laid out specifically.
Right. So there are a couple that you do have to be present at members' meeting, either online or in person, to cast your vote. There's no proxy voting. So you can't cast your votes in advance. And that's basically designed as items come up, because it is a meeting and items may come up that need to be voted on that aren't anticipated. That's where we do need to have people present. Now, that being said, one of the items here as well is on the 25th of July, member clubs can identify delegates to vote on behalf of the president of the club. The president is supposed to be doing the voting, but we understand that then not all presidents can be there. You can declare a delegate who will be casting the votes on behalf of the member club. So it doesn't have to be the president. If you want to give that, if you want to delegate that to somebody else, that's someone you have the option of doing. There's some subtlety beyond that, but does that also potentially address one of your issues, Jim?
Only to a certain degree, in such that if we were to designate a delegate and one of the discussions or motions goes into a detailed discussion, that person may not have the full understanding or scope of knowledge of the entire board
Yep.
of directors. So making a vote at that time would seem sort of inappropriate for someone
Yeah.
without the full scope, and it would seem to put an undue pressure on a non-board member or non-person to
Sure.
speak for the organization.
Sure, and I completely understand that situation, and it is unfortunately somewhat unavoidable, I'm afraid, in that the way that because the members meeting has to be, is a fixed date and time by the bylaws. I'm not sure exactly how to address that, in terms of having someone else, if they want to defer to find out what the opinion would be and so forth. I will say, and this is my opinion at this point in looking at the agenda, there aren't a lot of items on the agenda that are going to be voted on that probably have a lot of intricacies to them. We will be publishing the agenda in advance and providing all of the materials for anything that may come up. For instance, it's not like last year's meeting where we're rewriting the bylaws or restating the bylaws. This year is kind of the focus of a couple items in the bylaws and just some wording. And I'm not sure that there's going to be anything at the members meeting, which is going to be require a lot of kind of discussion and maybe some multiple votes. I don't anticipate that, but of course I understand your position in case that were the case.
That's Dick's way of saying we're hopeful this meeting isn't as contentious as past ones. And I don't think it will be. I do think that if your club if there's something on the agenda that's released and you really feel like there may be a decision to be made there, that you make sure that you have somebody who's knowledgeable enough to cast votes with some confidence.
Yep. And I'll also say that if that's the case and we need more time on a vote, for instance, the platform that we're planning on using will allow for that to happen. So if there's an ad hoc vote that we hadn't anticipated and we have to put it before everyone to cast votes, we would manage that. I mean, we certainly want to make sure that we're being conscious and aware, but we also want to make sure that we're being expeditious in the meeting process. So just to continue with this, USA Curling declares the number of individual or delegate votes 30 days out, 15 days out rather. Member clubs can identify delegates up to 15 days out. Delegate, and I mean delegates, a member club can identify up to 3 people to cast their votes and can identify what percentage of the total vote that they should be, or number of votes that they can have. That's been done before. There will be a form for that where you have to indicate what number of votes for each individual delegate will be casting. Individual members 15 days out have to declare that they're opting out. And then also individual members of delegates not in a member club. So there are some people who are members of USA Curling who can vote in this situation or vote at the members meeting, but are not part of a member club. That's where they will also be asked to declare their intent. And then by the 25th, by the end of that day, we should have the individual members and delegates are fixed, at which point we can calculate the AAC vote. The Athletes Advisory Council vote will be fixed at that point. If you remember from last year, we did publish these numbers, the number of votes that each member club could, or in this case, regional association, was going to be able to cast. We do that as early as we possibly can and we make adjustments as need be, but we do intend to have it fixed on the 25th. And then notification, and then the treasurer certifies the votes for member clubs, individual members, and the AAC. One note, the AAC will have 1/3 of the total vote population at the meeting as the number of votes that the AAC can cast. That is set in the bylaws and is mandated by the Ted Stevens Act. So it's a governmental action for all of the NGBs. That's very typical across. So if there are 20,000 votes that the members are carrying, the AAC will be given 10,000 votes for a total pool of 30,000 votes, and their vote share would be 1/3 of the total. I know that always raises questions. Why would it be that way? It's mandated, and the wording is very clear from the USOPC on how we manage that process. And then the meeting, Friday, August 9th at 7 p.m., I think. So are there any other questions or clarifications I can offer at this time? on the timeline at least. So the next thing I just want to cover, and I'll cover this real quickly, Dean, sorry.
Oh, you're good,
is,
Dick. Go right
yeah,
ahead.
okay, great. I'm going to take this down. I like that for some reason.
I'm just trying to see who might
And
have their hand up. Sorry.
yeah.
Go ahead,
Oh,
Dick. Finish
Phil.
up and then we'll go to Phil.
Okay, we'll come back to you, Phil. So that's the process. And then because it is very, very important that we have a contact for everybody who will be casting votes as early as possible. Because I don't really, none of us want to be chasing each other around in the last couple days, and we want to make sure it's there. So please, by default, if you can get on the form and say that your club intends to vote, you can do that now, and then we can start worrying about delegates. You can confirm the email address that it should be sent to. If you haven't gotten that email and you think you should, contact Lauren Rich, lauren.rich@usacurling.org. Send her a quick email and say, hey, on the council meeting last night, I realized we hadn't gotten an email yet. Who's that going to? That will be managed. But we want to get as far ahead of it as we can. As you can imagine, this becomes a big administrative challenge for all of us at the end. So the better you can make that for us, the more I will appreciate it. And I will make sure I buy you a drink the next time I see you.
Phil?
Cool. And then, yep, Phil.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. So in the past, the votes have kind of defaulted to the region, and then if someone wants to separate their vote, either at a club level or individual level, is that still the case here? Does the region still have kind of the region still has like any vote that doesn't fall out, or is it that completely changed?
No,
That
so
has changed, Phil.
that has changed.
Okay.
And the new bylaws, which are online, by the way, if you want to take a look at them, the vote is held by the member clubs, and the number of votes that they get to cast are the number of individual members within those clubs. The individual members indicate that that is their primary club, so that's who will be carrying the vote. And then the only fly in the ointment, or the only exception, would be if an individual member chooses to vote on their own or is not associated with a member club. Does that answer your question,
Okay,
Phil?
Yes,
Sure.
thanks for the clarification. I appreciate it.
You bet. Anything else I can? And so the last thing is the contact information is important. We're going to make sure you have the ability to vote on the fly at meetings, and that's something that will be wholly dependent on us being able to reach you. So please make sure that those emails are accurate and that someone's available. And if you need to cast it, you need to put a delegate in place or something happens, just communicate with me and communicate with Lauren up to the point of the meeting, and we'll make sure we get it right. That's our goal. If we can get as far ahead of it as we can beforehand, it'll be greatly appreciated.
It looks like Phil Bruce from Cape Cod has his hand up.
Oh, there it is. Yep. Sorry, Phil. Hey, Phil.
Yeah, Dick, quick question. With this new voting process, what is going to determine the quorum? Is it the number of people that said that they were going to attend and vote, or is it based on all of the member clubs?
It's based on the population of individual members. So if the population is 15,000, quorum is determined when we're at 7,500 individual members represented either by their clubs or as individuals. And as soon as we achieve that threshold, then we have quorum.
So if there aren't enough clubs to reach that quorum, what happens?
Well, as it would be the same thing with the regional association in previous years, then we can't declare a quorum and we can't actually have actions.
Okay. Thank you.
We would prefer that not to happen,
Yeah,
as you can imagine.
I think Phil, you've hit on the reason why we're communicating this much right now. So
Correct.
yeah, we do obviously want to have a quorum. So and I'm confident we will have one, but obviously we don't want to not have a quorum because there's any confusion or lack of communication.
Yep. I will say last year we had 95.4% of the membership was represented at the members meeting. I don't know if I communicated that very well last year. I was a little nervous, so I'll try to be better about that this year. But it is really a matter of everybody in this room making sure your clubs are attached to it, and we can connect to you and we make sure that we're there. I'm very confident we can get above 50%. Cool. Dean, is there anything else you'd like me to cover? I'm happy to.
No, I think that's great, Dick. I appreciate it. Unless there's any other hands up, and anyone feel free to follow up with other questions. And just to be clear too, this was the ability to have a quorum was something that was discussed quite a bit during our bylaw amendments when we went to this new model, membership model, with member clubs carrying votes, et cetera. So we're confident we can get there. We'd appreciate the help because we want to make sure all voices are heard. And I think it'll be hopefully a really productive members meeting. I think, honestly, I think once the agenda goes out, that will really help people understand what's being voted on, et cetera. And we have a board meeting on June 19th where we'll set that agenda and put that up, as Dick said, by the 10th.
And just one last note, I see Lauren is here. Hi, Lauren. She has put the form up online for club presidents or the initial contacts for people to say they're intending to come. That's in the meeting chat. And then the timeline that I just showed you, I also put in the meeting chat. You have edit rights. Please don't edit it. And if you could just do me the favor of not messing with it, that would be awesome. And I really appreciate it. So again, question secretary@usacurling.org. Member stuff to lauren.rich@usacurling.org. Really looking forward to having this be a great meeting for everybody. Thanks, Dean.
Yeah, and thanks for all your work on this, Dick. Appreciate
Happy
it.
to help.
It's you put a lot of time into this, and it's much appreciated. Speaking of a lot of time going into something, we've been working quite a bit on the members assembly schedule. Lauren Rich is on the call, has put together a tentative schedule that we're pulling together, and I'll let Lauren jump in here too, but I'll just give you the highlights of what will be part of the members assembly. So the members meeting will happen Friday night, and then we'll roll into the members assembly starting Saturday morning. The mixed doubles pre-trials will also be underway at the same time, but that's a 10-team event, and we have ice availability in between, especially on Saturday, between the draws that we'll be using, and we'll have off-ice activities as well. So some of the things we're going to do, there's going to be level 1 and level 2 officiating clinics at the members assembly. There is going to be Ice Tech certification. That's the first pass at that is happening at the end of June at Chaska, where we're implementing this new program that our top ice techs studied with the World Academy of Sport. They'll deliver that, so it'll be a good test run. The Ice Tech certification will actually happen over at Four Seasons in Blaine, but for people who can't make the one in June, there's another one. And just to be clear, not every Ice Tech certification class will be in Minnesota. They're sort of back to back here in the Twin Cities, but we're talking, there's going to be one, I think, in Portland. We're talking to Ardsley on the East Coast about putting one there as well. So those will move around. The other parts will have level 2 instructor clinic, and we're going to have a level 2 course conductor clinic. That's going to be led by Matt Shiner. Some of you might know him. He's from Ardsley. Has been a real asset to us on the instruction side. So people are interested in getting their level 2 instruction or being a level 2 course conductor, we'll be able to do that there. We're going to have 45-minute skills clinics available, small groups, 4 to 5 people per sheet. That'll be with our national team athletes and some coaches out on the ice, give anybody who wants some thoughts on how they're throwing the rock, et cetera, from those people. And then we're also going to have sweeping as part of that as well. There's also going to be on Friday night, I guess, just before the members meeting, we're going to have an online panel that can be attended in person too on sweeping. So everybody who has questions about what the best way to sweep is these days, we're hopefully going to tackle that. Not that I think everybody has it all figured out yet, but we'll give you our best take on it. And then the other thing we're introducing is a analytics certification. So that will be a mix of classroom and then an opportunity to score some games during the mixed doubles pre-trials. And the idea with that is we're going to have different levels available to people in that, from first just learning how to score games at the most basic level, and then moving on to actually analyzing results from the way ends unfold. So interesting. I think it'll be interesting to people who just want to learn more, whether you want to score a game or not. I think it'll be a good lesson in just understanding the game and strategy. So I'll stop there. Lauren, if there's anything you want to add there, feel free to. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to. So we're planning to release the schedule and open registrations for all these things on Monday. So.
You pretty much covered it.
All right. Sorry to steal. Lord, sounds like I stole all of her
No,
good
no, no.
work there. So, but it's been a collective effort, and I will just say on the coaching conference, and I think I have this as a separate agenda item, and I'll just jump to it now. So we are introducing at the members' assembly the new coaching certification process. We have two new modules now built. There'll be the introductory, tentatively called the level 1 coaching. Those will be available online. And then the next level in the coaching certification will be attending an in-person session like we're planning for Saturday. That's going to be an all-day session from like 10 to 4 or 10 to 5. So it'll be and the one thing I want to make clear is we've had, as most of you know, we've had instructor certification. And I think we haven't had, well, I know we haven't had a coaching certification. And sometimes I think that people have confused instructor certification with coaching certification. I think you'll see that the coaching certification is much more robust take on just what it means to be a coach in any sport and then in our sport as you advance through it. So we're pretty excited about that, pretty excited about the platform we have that we'll be introducing in advance of the members assembly, and then we'll be running this all-day coaches conference. So if for anybody who is interested in coaching, or if you know people at your club are interested, we're hoping that's going to be a welcome. Lauren, go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, I'm wondering if there is cost associated to members for signing up for the things that will be happening during the members assembly.
Yes, there will be costs for each. They vary depending on what it is, but there will be costs to sign up for different things. Unfortunately, we don't have the pure dollars at the moment to just run this without charging for people for things. Now, that said, I also think that charging for things means that we have to make sure we're delivering value, right? So that's important. One of the things we're going to do with the coaching certification too is we're not planning to ever make it like a requirement. Basic requirement to be a coach will be background screen, safe sport, the usual things rather than this. But what we do want to do is make it so good that people want to take these coaching certification classes. So that's just the philosophy we're going to take behind it. Because I know in some sports, it's like, well, you can't coach at this level if you're not a level 3. We don't plan on doing that. But instead, we want to earn people's participation in the coaching certification process. So when we open registration, will be all the prices associated with each. Any other questions? All right. I'll keep moving along then to the next topic on the agenda was 2025 College Nationals. I will say it's the one national championship we're still in search of a host for. I probably talked to this group about it before. There is some interest from one East Coast club, but one of the challenges, and anybody here is on the call from the eastern part of the United States, the college group does like to alternate between a Midwest location and an East Coast location. So we have another club that lands in the Midwest that is interested in it, and we're grateful that they are. But ideally, we'd sign them on for next year versus this year, and we'd have an East Coast location. So if your club is interested in that, it does require 4 sheets. Because we need to get it done in 3 days, and it's 16 teams. So that's something just to put out there. If your club leadership is interested, typically runs early March. Pride Bonspiels, we are going to put out some information about the various Pride Bonspiels both throughout this summer and into next season. We have some of them on our the ones we know of are on our Bonspiel calendar. But if your club, in fact, whether it's on or not, we just appreciate it if your club runs one, just letting us know and letting us know what the dates are and if there's a registration link. You can email that to Jenna Bercheski would be best. So that's Jenna. You can find her. You can find all our staff emails on the site and staff. But Jenna Bercheski in marketing. I'd love it if you have one, email it to her, and we'll make sure it's included in that. I know. I know there's some this summer. Go ahead, Lauren.
Oh, finish your thought.
Oh, no. I was just going to launch into, I forget what now, but so go ahead. So,
Okay. Sorry, didn't mean to disrupt.
no problem.
I was going to ask, it seems like this year there has been a less intentional acknowledgement and celebration of Pride than in past years. You know, from things like social media logos not changing, no acknowledgement of it in the newsletter. The only thing I've seen is a social media post with the hat and the pins, and it's been kind of disappointing that the hat was branded as, you know, spring apparel and then Mother's Day apparel and then Pride apparel. Made it feel like kind of an afterthought. I know folks have been pretty disappointed, especially with the political climate, especially for trans athletes. So I'm just curious why we haven't said more. Curling, I think, you know, has been more inclusive than most sports, so it's been kind of disappointing.
Well, I would say I've heard those criticisms for sure, and they're not unfair. We didn't probably roll it out as much as well as we should have, and the hat was obviously a mistake. But it wasn't intentional in any way to lessen the focus on it. But you know, we are going to do some things throughout this month to remind people about it. So I hope you'll give us a bit of patience on that, and we'll try to you know, improve. I guess it's a question, sort of a matter of progress, not perfection, right? We don't claim to get everything right all the time, and we obviously didn't get this particularly right on day one. So hope to improve that. Also with the understanding that, you know, you run into these things where maybe nothing is ever quite enough, but I think the criticism of what we did was fair.
Well, I'll just say I personally would love to see, you know, a strong statement of support for LGBTQ, especially trans athletes from USA Curling, given the current political climate. I think it's really important. So thanks. I'm glad to hear that it's being paid attention to.
I will just say I'm also cautious about feeling performative with these things. And I will just say that we do have one of the most inclusive transgender participation policies in sport. So, and I'm not trying to deflect any criticism here, but, you know, I do feel, you know, I'm more proud about that than I think about, you know, anything we post. But fair point, fair enough, and we'll be out with some more information throughout the month. Any other thoughts on that? Great. And not trying to just push this aside. I will say too, you know, I do just myself. I've got a call with somebody who expressed the same concern. I've got a call with them on Friday, and I think I shared something with Brian in one response I had just to get his take on it, to see if he thought we were approaching it correctly. So I can take that discussion offline sometime, Brian, but appreciate any input you have there. Summer schedules, we have summer bonspiels up. If there's other things related to that, please don't, if you don't see your summer event, please share those with us. I will say on Fridays, the staff at USA Curling is not as available as we are during Fridays during the season. I do try to give our staff some flexibility on Fridays during the summer, because they often work, you know, 70, 80 hours a week during the winter. So we try to give them a little more flexibility on Friday. So it doesn't mean we're not all checking emails, et cetera, but I try to just Friday might not be the best time to reach any of us. But certainly don't be afraid to try to reach us, because I'll bet you'll get an answer. With that, I'll throw it over to Lauren for cybersecurity.
Hey everyone. So I'm definitely not a cybersecurity expert in any way, but over the past couple of weeks, I've kind of become anecdotally aware of a number of successful and unsuccessful phishing attacks that have happened to clubs, so to curling clubs. So I just wanted to kind of put it on everyone's mind to be mindful of these really sometimes elaborate spear phishing attacks that can be very costly to clubs. So just if you don't already have a policy for verifying if somebody's asking you to transfer money from one account to another, just have a secondary form of communication with that organization to make sure that you're actually in contact with the organization that you think that you are. And those kinds of steps, and having really good communication with your board members around these things, that can help prevent these attacks from being successful. I think I'll find it and put it in the chat. I think there's a link. The National Council for Nonprofits, I think, has a couple of articles about cybersecurity for nonprofits that might be of interest to you guys. So I'll put that in the chat. And unfortunately, I don't have, again, a lot of expertise. If anybody here does and has any advice, we'd love to hear it. But I just kind of wanted to put that in everyone's mind.
I'm going to assume that most people in this call, there's usually someone at every club who is their technology person. So they may be aware of it, or it may be something you want to share. There does seem to be an increase in that kind of activity as of late. Brian has his hand up.
Yeah, I actually do cybersecurity for my day job in part. And so I'm looking online now to see if I can give you any additional resources. I work for the federal government. We have mandated training every year for cybersecurity. So something along the lines of those modules, if that could be incorporated into our LMS, in USA Curling, Sports 80, I think that would be a really great thing to just put out there for people, because a lot of people just don't ever care or bother.
Yeah.
But it's actually something I've been trying to get my mother to do on a semi frequent basis, because I completely agree. It's an area that we are vastly vulnerable on, but have gotten away very successfully so far because we're just not the target. But yeah, so I can help you with that a little bit if needed. I'll start looking for some good references to share.
That would be great. Thank you so much, Brian.
Yeah, Thanks, Brian. Appreciate that. Yeah, and as we just grow as a sport, we'll become a more inviting target, won't we, Brian? So that's
exactly.
So with growth will come attention. So on that, appreciate that. And that's obviously something we can work into our house, the content platform as well. And then 9, I had the timing of the infrastructure grant announcements. We've got a number of applications. We're working our way through them and talking to some clubs that we've identified as ones where we think the grant could have the most impact, and plan to begin awarding those in July. So that's the main update there. I know that there's probably some clubs who are wishing that process was happening faster, but we do have to be, certainly show some due diligence as we work through those. Phil, go ahead.
Dina, I just want to go back to that cybersecurity and just
Sure.
Just this past weekend, our PayPal account, there was an attempted attack in there. It was a phishing attack. And the user's name was, "If you don't recognize this seller, contact this number immediately."
So that one wasn't particularly slick.
It sort of looked like a legitimate number to call, but instead of calling the number, I called PayPal. I went online and found their number and called them directly, and they said, yes, that is a phishing attempt. Just be careful. I just wanted to let people be aware that our PayPal account was they tried to get into it that way. Nothing was compromised, but I didn't call the number that they said to call immediately.
Yeah. Not to bore everyone with cybersecurity talk, but we had something like that happen to us too, where it was they actually had made it look like it came an email from somebody on staff requesting payment for a hotel reservation, and what gave it away was sort of the tone of it was like, but it was really slick, actually, alarmingly so. But so yeah, just be cautious there. Um, the last thing, we should probably just create a whole cybersecurity subgroup, I guess, maybe. But our the last thing before new business was just an update on the GNCC. For people who don't know, and we received a letter from the GNCC Board of Directors on June 9th, just a few days ago. It said, on behalf of our member clubs and per their vote on May 18th, 2024, the Grand National Curling Club accepts your invitation to join USA Curling as a recognized regional association. This acceptance is based on our mutual understanding per correspondence shared with us on March 19th, 2024. It is also dependent upon the successful passing of the resolution clarifying financial independence. That's a resolution we're going to take up at the next board meeting. I will say that financial independence piece extends to all recognized regional associations. We don't have a financial relationship with any RRA, apart from the fact that some do use us to register teams for regional playdowns, and then we reconcile those numbers and return the regional fees to each region. But we'll pass that resolution, and I just want to make sure people know that that's relevant to all recognized regional associations. There's no financial relationship between an RRA and USA Curling. So, any questions on that? Now, obviously, that's something that will be voted on at the members' meeting as well. So positive, I think, for certainly, I think, for the curling community. So I'm looking forward to the next steps there. And then the last thing I had was on the agenda, or the last thing we had was any new business that somebody would want to bring up. Certainly an opportunity to right now. We had I think a really good conversation about a number of things last time, and a lot of good information shared. So even if it's not something that's been discussed recently or something that's on the agenda, if there's just something club related you think would be helpful for your colleagues here to hear about, please, this is your opportunity to do that. Or if you have any other questions about just USA Curling and our relationship with member clubs. And it looks like Lauren has her hand up.
Me again. Hi,
It's all
everybody.
right.
So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Lauren Whitmer. I'm with Bowling Green Curling Club. I'm on our board. And a little bit of context about our club. We got moved into our dedicated facility. I believe it was in 2017. I wasn't curling at the time. I'm newer than that, but we are really at a phase where we have kind of settled into our facility, and we need to start doing some intentional moving out of immediate survival mode into long-term planning mode. And so I am wondering if USA Curling or any other clubs have any resources, advice, helpful, whatever, in terms of us figuring out how to do long-term planning. We're talking like 5+ year planning around membership, finances, facilities, that kind of thing. Because we're trying to figure out how to swim through some murky waters, not club wise, but planning wise. A lot of things to consider.
Sure. I'll throw it to the group first, because I don't know how many people are with member clubs that have taken on what Lauren's talking about. And I know Lauren reached out to us with this question already. And I have to admit, we don't have a ton on this topic about helping clubs with long range strategic planning. Certainly something that I think we could develop, but if anybody on the call has been through that process at their own club, that might be great. I think, I know a number of, a lot of clubs maybe don't step up to, Chris is a CFO in her non-curling life, and Brian has his hand up. So
I just wanted to chime in because we are just in the Granite Curling in Seattle. We're just in the middle of kind of kicking off or relaunching efforts. We're standing up a capital improvements committee, and this committee would help with figuring out sort of long-term facilities related improvements. But I know that's part of the puzzle. You also have the fundraising part. You have the, general programming discussions. So I know one of the activities we did a few years ago that really helped at least kind of push us along is creating a mission and vision statement. And I can get you in touch if that's something that you might want to use as a starting point with the representative who I believe used to curl with us, June Kamada down in Evergreen, if he would be available or if he could recommend good resources to start you guys on that. But from a mission and vision statement, ideation, sort of figuring what that is out, then you kind of can transition to, okay, now that we know what we are and where we're going, which is sort of the second part, how do you then start to resource the smaller tasks that have to be taken on, like facilities, growth strategy, marketing, all of the things that fall out from that. So yeah, Lauren, I can get you the info for June if that's something you're interested in.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Thank you. And Chris, I'll if you can put your email or something in the chat, I can reach out to you too. That would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Phil Shryock, also from Seattle, has his hand up.
Yeah, Lauren, I've got a collection of about a dozen strategic plans that you literally, if you Google strategic plan for a curling club, you'd be surprised at what you can find. And you're also going to laugh at this, but I literally, I had a couple of AI softwares write a 5-year plan for our club, and it was uncanny. At least in terms of laying a foundation.
Stop, Phil. Stop. Sorry, keep going, Phil.
So yeah, I'll drop my email. I'm happy to send you what I have in terms of because again, I got a pretty good collection of things that I've been trying to do this over time.
I will say two
Wonderful.
things that
Thank you.
might be related to this, Lauren. One is we are, and I think I mentioned this before, but we are developing a deck that's about the value of a curling facility to a community. Not sure that really fits into long-range planning, but we think it's important for clubs to make sure their communities both know their value and both know the potential value of either a bigger, better club or a new club. So that's in the works. I will share too, just, we have a plan to, one of our long range plans is a national curling center. So we continue to move on that, and that will, inevitably be some sort of public-private partnership where that same document about the value of a curling facility will matter. So hopefully we can share that with you quickly. Again, maybe not super critical to what you're doing, but might be helpful. Anything else for Lauren or any other new business?
Hey, Dean, Jim has. Oh.
Jen has her hand up. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just saying, Jim has asked in the chat, when are the 2024, 2025 5 and under qualifiers going to be announced?
Yeah, so right now, Jim, that's the application process is underway. So I think I'd have to check here, but I think that cuts off mid-July. And then we'll decide the qualifier bonds bills. We said like August 30th, but I think we can do it sooner than that. So just going to pull up the qualifier bonds bill application. So that's actually a good point. I'm glad you brought it up, Jim. For clubs that have a 5 and under bonds bill, I will say that right now we only have, just had it here. We have 14 right now who have applied. It closes July 19th. So if there's a 5 and under bonds bill at your club, it's worth, as a club representative, you want to check and say, hey, did you make sure you complete the application? this is year 3 of this, but with everything, there's always still a learning curve for it. And I'm always concerned there's some clubs that don't realize there is a process for this. So yeah, so we have 14 right now. My hope is that we need 23. Last year we had 22 apply. And for various reasons, we had a team we let in from the year before. So this year I really would like to have 23 or more apply for sure. So I know there's some new ones like Frogtown and Jim's Club. So 567 entries in 500 Bonspiels last year. So excited to see that growth.
Robert has a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Well,
Robert.
Lacrosse Curling Club is excited to announce that we will be hosting the inaugural qualifier Bonspiel for Arena National Curling Championships. That'll be in September at our own arena here in Onalaska, Wisconsin. And that announcement was just made yesterday. So if any club is interested, they can check us out. It's, I believe, also on the USA site already.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, Robert, because we just sort of hammered that out. I got the email from Brian last night. We put together a release and put that out on social media today, but it is on our news section on our site. And there was also a social post about it. So for people who don't know, if you have a question, if you're from an arena club, we've added this Bonspiel as another way to qualify for Arena Nationals. So we're pretty excited we're thrilled that Lacrosse is taking it on because it's no small task. So it will run like a typical Bonspiel, just with the winners of each genders getting berths in the Nationals. So it's in some ways sort of like a last chance Bonspiel, the last chance berth spot. So we're I hope if you're an arena club, you'll consider supporting it and send a team to Lacrosse.
Pretty exciting for us is since we just revealed yesterday, we already have registration secured.
Oh, great. So you already had some people registering. All right. Well, like I always say, arena curlers are the most dedicated curlers in the country. So I'm sure that they go through so much to curl it all that I think signing up for a Bonspiel is about the easiest thing they do related to curling.
True.
So yeah. So yeah, if you do need, there's links in our release, and if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. But it's really being run independently by Lacrosse, much like our U5 events, where the club collects entry fees, the club runs a spiel, and then they provide the names of the winners. So Abby has a question about an at-large playdown, or no, this is not replacing a playdown. So, and Abby, the short answer is, with the GNCC coming back on board, we want that to be a GNCC spot. We have to iron out with them, how that's going to happen. We've been working previously on locations for at-large playdowns in case we needed them. We're hoping that the GNCC will take those on, but and we're sharing the contacts we have. So it's not replacing that large. So just to be real clear on this, just in case people ask, at large was never intended to be its own region, right? It typically served as a place to house clubs that didn't feel like there was a region that made sense for them at the time, and it was often a temporary hold. We've used it in the past 2 years because we didn't want to exclude the clubs that are in the historically GNCC region from playdowns or belonging to USA Curling. So what was at large, we intend to have returned to GNCC. There are a few at-large clubs still out there, but not many. And we hope, what we'd really like is for all of them to belong to an RRA, right? So we're not, we'd rather have, as an organization, we hope that every member club belongs to an RRA. If I keep saying RRA enough, it'll stick, right? So new terminology. with that, is there anything else? Just yeah, that's Recognized Regional Association, Jeff. I'm going to keep saying it and it'll stick. Michael has a question.
Yes, Dean, I want to.
Or Michelle,
I'm
sorry.
Michel Plante. Yeah, I'm Michel Plante from the Palmetto Curling Club in Greenville, South Carolina.
Hey,
Arena
how are you?
Club.
Yep.
Good, thanks. And this is my second meeting with you guys, so I appreciate all the information.
Great.
I want to come back to your the value of curling club for the community. Do you have a rough timeline on when it's going to be available and how it's going to be communicated to the club? Because we're in the process of trying to get to dedicated.
We should have that done, Michelle, by the end of the month. And
Okay.
it'll just be available in our house. I'm sure we'll do a release about it and share it, as you know, there's no reason for us not to share it, right? We want to get it out there. So yeah, that should be done by the end of the month. Unfortunately, there's a few potential sponsor decks that took precedent this week, but we'll get that out there. And I know I talked to Bo Welling from World Curling, of course, about your club and your plans. So yeah, would love to if that document can help you in some way.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Hey Michelle, where did you start curling? Because I'm guessing it wasn't Palmetto.
No,
Clearly,
Montreal.
South Carolina.
Montreal, yeah. So
Yeah, Montreal.
what club in Montreal?
We played in Outremont, and
Oh yeah.
I also played at the Army base on the east side of Montreal.
Sure. So real quick, useless diversion, just as we're coming up, and then I'll stop. But I curled in Quebec, and I went to school in Montreal and played in the 1988 Brier for Quebec. And on my team was Marco Ferraro, who's the guy who invented the Marco hacks. So, and also a French Canadian. So,
Good. Thank you, Dean.
thanks. Is there anyone else with questions? We're coming up right on the hour. Like I always say, I like to keep these to an hour, but happy to entertain any last thoughts or questions. Well, as always, I appreciate everybody's time. I know it's an hour on a nice summer evening when you could be doing something else. So really appreciate it, and appreciate any feedback you get from your club. It doesn't have to wait until this meeting. If you, like I said, if you want to share it with us, please email us. And if you have any thoughts for the next meeting in terms of an agenda, please feel free to share those as well. Hope to get this Teams channel working a little better for us, but it's not right now. So with that, any other thoughts before we cut it off here? And just so you know too, that we do post these, we put these meetings on our YouTube channel. So if you ever miss one, they're available there for your viewing pleasure. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Dean.
Appreciate it.